U.S. Navy's guided missile destroyer enters South China Sea amid CCP drills, challenging Beijing. Taiwan is not the only target. China's PLA conducts simulated attack on foreign targets. Taiwan refuses to bow to China's total encirclement and celebrates its freedom. Cognitive warfare, Chinese suspect behind up to 150 threatening messages to Taiwan. China's regime sentences two well-known human rights activists to heavy prison terms. The U.S. Navy announced on April 10th that its guided missile destroyer USS Milius conducted normal operations of freedom of navigation in the South China Sea near the Spratly Islands. The announcement came as the Chinese regime's military held military drills around Taiwan. It simulates precision strikes against the island amid recent tensions between China and the U.S. over Taiwan. It said these operations demonstrate that the United States will fly, sail, and operate wherever international law allows, regardless of the location of excessive maritime claims and regardless of current events. The U.S. Navy also criticized unlawful claims of the water in the region, which mostly referred to the Chinese regime, saying, "Unlawful and sweeping maritime claims in the South China Sea pose a serious threat to the freedom of the seas." It stressed the United States challenges excessive maritime claims around the world regardless of the identity of the claimant. Taiwan's defense ministry said that on Sunday, April 9th, it discovered 70 aircraft from the Chinese Communist regime's forces and 11 warships near Taiwan. 35 warplanes crossed the Taiwan Straits median line and entered the southwestern part of the island's air defense identification zone. Beijing claims over 80% of the South China Sea, with many areas overlapping exclusive economic zones of multiple countries. Washington refused to recognize Beijing's claims and regularly conducts freedom of navigation operations in the region to challenge them. Other countries in the region also claim their regions, including the Philippines, Taiwan, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Brunei.
China's People's Liberation Army, or PLA, drills to simulate a so-called precision strike on Taiwan are currently attracting the outside world's attention. Reuters cited sources familiar with the matter on April 9th, saying China had been conducting simulated air and sea attacks on foreign military targets in the waters off Taiwan's southwestern coast. And Taiwan is not their only target. According to Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense, the PLA continued the exercises around the Taiwan Strait from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. on April 9th. A total of 70 types of fighter jets were detected, including Su-30, J-11, and H-6. 35 sorties crossed the median line into Taiwan's southwest and southeast airspace. The number of battleships increased to 11. The Republic of China Armed Forces has paid particular attention to the operation direction of the PLA rocket force. It reiterated that Taiwan's forces would not escalate conflicts nor cause disputes, and would respond appropriately to China's drills. The report cited national security sources, saying about 20 Chinese and Taiwanese military ships were engaging in a standoff near the Taiwan Strait's median line. But both sides remained restrained and did not take any provocative actions. Sources said China's aircraft carrier Shandong is currently more than 400 nautical miles off Taiwan's southeast coast and is conducting drills. Taiwan's forces have been monitoring Shandong's activities since last week. China's CCTV released the latest video on April 9th, showing the Chinese frigate Huzhou confronting the Taiwanese frigate Yiyang in Taiwan's eastern sea that morning. The visible distance between the two frigates was about 5 nautical miles. Zhao Xiaozhuo, a researcher at the PLA Academy of Military Sciences, told the Global Times on April 9th that this is the first time China has publicly announced a simulated attack on Taiwan. The PLA's striking targets on Taiwan include infrastructure such as airstrips, military logistics facilities, and important mobile targets. It also warns to destroy them in one go if necessary. China's 3-day drills around Taiwan, with troops from the Eastern Theater Command deploying dozens of fighter jets and warships around the island, were seen as the PLA's rage-filled display of force after the meeting between Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen and the U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy.
Last week's meeting between Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen and U.S. House of Representatives Speaker Kevin McCarthy reportedly greatly unsettled the Chinese regime. So much so that it launched a military deployment for 3 days as a serious warning against separatist forces seeking Taiwan's independence and also to deter outside forces. On April 8th, CNN reported that Taiwanese Ministry of Defense detected that 71 Chinese fighter jets crossed the Taiwan Strait and 9 Chinese military vessels were also detected near this island. The Chinese military announced the same day that military exercises called United Sharp Sword rehearsed a deterrent situation and total encirclement around the island nation. ABC News reported that the Chinese military also conducted simulated joint precision strikes on key targets. But despite military pressure from Chinese communism, the Taiwanese are getting on with their lives. On April 9th, AFP reported that people of different ages who were enjoying activities in Dan Park were not bowing down to the recent Chinese military moves on the high seas, but reiterated that freedom is paramount. Nathan Green, a 16-year-old student with dual Australian and Taiwanese nationality, said, "We have to keep our life going. We cannot just stop our life. I don't like a government that is like a prison. I don't like a government that wants to control our people. I like a government that is free." Several people who attended the park not only expressed that they do not want to be ruled by the Chinese Communist Party, but also made it clear that they are not against the Chinese people. For example, Wilson Su, another 16-year-old Taiwanese boy who wants to join the army after finishing school, said, "I don't like the government, but I don't hate the people in China. I feel safe in Taiwan. I don't think they will attack. We are like brothers. If they bomb Taiwan, the relationship is broken forever." For the Chinese Communist Party, Taiwan belongs to it, and it's commonly called a rebel province ruled by separatists. However, there is a historical reason to understand the origin of this tense conflict. According to a BBC report, in the 1940s, a civil war broke out in mainland China between the Nationalist Party, known as the Kuomintang, and the Chinese Communist Party, led by dictator Mao Zedong. Unfortunately, in 1949, the Communists won and took control of Beijing, and what was left of the Kuomintang fled to Taiwan, where it ruled for the next several decades as a sovereign country with its own constitution and democratically elected leaders. Today, the island nation maintains the same governmental system, led by President Tsai Ing-wen. The Chinese regime points to history to claim Taiwan as its property and justify what it calls reunification, meaning that the island should be part of mainland China as another province governed by Beijing's control. The Taiwanese also points to the same history, but to clarify that they were never part of the People's Republic of China that was established in 1949 under communist rule. In recent years, the Chinese regime intensified its military pressure against the island. However, the Taiwanese people remain firm in their stance of not giving in to a totalitarian government.
Taiwan's Criminal Investigation Bureau, or CIB, said up to 150 threatening texts have been sent to Taiwanese government offices and public transportation networks recently. The suspect was a Chinese person who once studied there. According to Focus Taiwan, during a legislative hearing on April 10th, Chuang Jue-hyung of the ruling Democratic Progressive Party questioned what law enforcement was doing in response to the numerous disturbances created by the suspect, Zhang Haichuan, who the authorities have identified. Chuang theorized they might be a kind of Chinese cognitive warfare. Since September 2021, Zhang has been suspected of delivering bomb threats via email to numerous transit systems, including the Taipei MRT, Taoyuan Airport MRT, Taiwan High-Speed Rail, and government institutions such as the Executive Yuan and the Presidential Office. According to CIB data, police have submitted Zhang to the Taichung District Prosecutor's Office based on suspicion that he is connected to 68 threats. However, prosecutors now think the actual number may be closer to 150. From 2016 to 2021, Zhang, a native of the Chinese province of Zhejiang, attended Providence University in Taichung and the National Taiwan University of Technology graduate program. After a fellow Chinese student rejected his advances, he allegedly threatened the school where she was studying, which led to his arrest on charges of criminal intimidation. Zhang was questioned by prosecutors and eventually charged, but they did not stop him from leaving the country, which permitted him to return to China in July 2021. Zhang allegedly sent threats to Taiwan's government and transportation system after returning to China, many of which used the same alias, language, and a VPN to conceal his IP address and location. The threats may have been due to the allegations brought against him. Interior Minister Lin Yuchang stated that he had directed the National Police Agency, or NPA, to create a mechanism for handling the effects of threats like those allegedly sent by the suspect. Huang Mingqiao, the head of the NPA, said that his agency had already spoken to Chinese officials about the allegations against Zhang, but projected that it would be challenging to have Zhang appear in court. Although China and Taiwan have worked together in the past to fight crime, both countries have generally upheld the concept of not handing over their citizens to the opposing side.
On April 10th, two prominent Chinese human rights activists, Xu Zhiyong and Ding Jiaxi, were each sentenced to more than 10 years in prison by China's regime for what it calls state subversion. According to Reuters, Xu, 50, and Ding, 55, are prominent lawyers and activists in the New Citizens movement. This is a movement known for its activities that promote transparency over the assets of officials and demand the empowerment of citizens as required by the Constitution. These two activists have been arrested and detained by Chinese authorities for more than 3 years. Ding was arrested by the Chinese Communist regime's police in December 2019, shortly after he attended a gathering in southern China with about 20 other lawyers and activists. Xu is a close friend of Ding. Xu once wrote an open letter calling for CCP's General Secretary Xi Jinping's resignation. He was arrested in February 2020. Ding's wife, Luo Shangchun, said Xu and Ding, lawyers, are forbidden from court verdict documents and they do not dare to reveal where they were publishing and under what charges. She added that Xu was sentenced to 14 years in prison and Ding was sentenced to 12 years. Both activists have also previously been jailed for their human rights activism. Commenting on the heavy prison sentences of the two human rights lawyers, Yaqi Wang, a senior China researcher at New York-based Human Rights Watch, said, "The cruelly farcical convictions and sentences met out to Xu Zhiyong and Ding Jiaxi show President Xi's unstinting hostility towards peaceful activism."